Building on the in-depth interviews, we are trying to see how to analyze the data which has been collected, say through an in-depth interview. So we already know that when we are conducting an in-depth interview, we will record the interview and we will transcribe and if necessary translate the transcript, and we have reading material with us which we are going to use to analyze the data. And today what we are going to see is how to do the data analysis. So we have already seen that there are differences between the quantitative and the qualitative approach as far as research is considered, and we are going to stick to our example of experiences of postgraduate students in community medicine regarding the weekly university seminar which is held in Mumbai. We are going to stick to this example and a particular transcript in a major part of this presentation. So when we want to study the perceptions and the experiences of postgraduate students with regards to, say, university seminar, if we use a quantitative approach, we have certain options. Like we can directly ask these students, we can begin by asking how do they feel, whether it's beneficial to them, and it can be a yes/no answer. Or we can use a Likert scale where we'll ask them to grade the experience with regards to the benefits of these university seminars. But there are certainly limitations to this kind of approach. And if we really want to go into the depth of their experiences, understandings, perceptions, and what they want to say about the university seminars, the best option is to conduct probably an in depth interview with some of the postgraduate students. So when we use a qualitative approach, the method we are going to use, the tool, the methods are going to be different. The database generated is going to be different, and as well as the analysis is going to be different. A very key difference is that the time taken for analysis in qualitative research, if we use the traditional methods, it is roughly 3 times the time which you would require for data collection. So one should be ready to invest that much amount of time in qualitative research. So it cannot be done in hurry or in a jiffy. You have to be mentally prepared that you are going to require a long duration to finish your analysis as far as qualitative research is considered. Now, I don't know if anybody from the lab has joined, because some of Joyce, can you see anybody from the lab who has joined? No one has joined, no? I can't see.
No, ma'am.
Joyce? Yeah. So I'll just skip this part. If later on, if somebody's there, I just wanted to show them that they can also do some qualitative research. So now this is one transcript where we have asked a postgraduate student about their experiences of the weekly seminars, university seminars, which they are expected to attend. And the response was each time everyone are coming with different topics, things which are explored, which are to be explored apart from what we learn here, everything. Travel medicine was there in one seminar, then about female literacy, female related things. There are many things. Each university seminar makes me think out of the box. We are not confined to only that. PSM is not only this, it is apart from that. There are many things are there, so it gave me idea. It also gave me many things to be. There are many opportunities. Each seminar gave me at least 10 take home points, which I have a separate note for each seminar. I write what all I learned from that. Then going to each seminar makes me so enthusiastic. I have to learn. So this is the response from a respondent, and this is the transcript. Now the question is, how do I analyze this kind of data? So it is, I cannot convert this into numbers. I cannot put it into any Excel sheet, right? So how do I analyze this data? This is what we are going to try and understand. So just the basics of it, how to begin thinking about analyzing the data. Now, when we are talking about analysis, what actually we are doing is we are, and we're talking of coding because there are other methods of analyzing qualitative data. But when we think of coding, what we are doing is disassembling the data. And there are two techniques which we should learn when we want to do this disassembling, that is coding and memoing. So we are just going to focus more on coding, and might be next class we talk of more of how to write memos. So this is the cycle. When you have your qualitative data, you should also learn to compile your database. Now it is not just your in-depth interviews. In your qualitative data, you will have your field notes also. So all kinds of data, it could be your photographs, everything is your database in qualitative research. You should be able to store it properly, manage it properly, and compile it properly. The next step is disassembling this data into pieces and then reassembling it to make sense out of it. And then you interpret your results and come up with your conclusion. And as you can see, at many places you move to and fro. So it is not just forward moving. Like this is another difference from quantitative research. You have the flexibility of moving to and fro and updating your stuff as you make sense of your data. Are you with me till here?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So this is what you have a transcript. And now, as I told you, what you are going to do in coding is disassembling the data. Disassembling means you are going to cut it out into small pieces. So for that, you have to carefully look at it word by word, line by line, paragraph by paragraph, through a lens very carefully, and you might be able to see certain, this is just a metaphor I have used here, certain shapes, for example, right? So you can see that you can disassemble this into, say, certain kinds of shapes, and this is disassembling. That is, you see that these shapes are recurring, you are finding a pattern, and then you are synthesizing all what you have got and you are categorizing them. That is, you are reassembling the disassembled parts. So this is what your analysis is. The entire transcript, each and every transcript, you want to find out how you can disassemble it into small parts, and then how you can reassemble it into certain categories based on the patterns which are emerging. This is what coding is all about. Now, if I use a particular lens, I see from a particular angle, I will see shapes. Somebody else comes and looks at the same transcript and sees it from their lens, they may see colors, and they may want to disassemble the transcript based on the color pattern. And there could be a third person who sees both, different shapes, different colors, and then comes up with different categories. So remember, the same transcript can be seen differently, and to a large extent this is driven by your research question. So what you're trying to do is to break up your the transcript, which is the response from the participants, and then trying to see whether you can group these disassembled parts and make sense out of your data. Because many times when you're doing analysis, you don't know what actually you're doing when you're doing coding. But this is what ultimately you are trying to do when you are attempting to code your transcripts. So again, we come back to the same transcript. Now, as I told you, this is a very small part of the entire transcript, but if we want to code it, understanding the metaphor, what we need to do is to break this entire paragraph into small pieces and then give a name to each and every piece of this transcript. Now, the piece what I'm talking about can be a word, it can be a line or a sentence, or it can be a part of a paragraph, right? So, uh, two common options are, one is doing a line by line coding, which is a very intensive exercise, but it is also very effective because you do not tend to miss out on any important point in your transcript. So that is known as line by line coding. Or otherwise, you can club together relevant sentences and you can code them together too, which is comparatively easier to do. So, what is before going to actually doing the coding, to code, you have to be a master in reading your transcripts. And this is a very crucial thing because even I have experienced some of these studies which we are doing currently in our department. When I try to read the transcript, even I find it very difficult to actually do effective reading. So, for doing qualitative data coding, you have to have this skill. I told you, you have to have the skill of interviewing, of listening, and then this reading. So, how to read your transcript? There is something known as close and mindful reading. You have to start from nothing, that is empty your brains with regards to any external thoughts or any biases which are there, and you have to read with a clear mind. So there are two things to be done when you are reading. One is known as bracketing. Bracketing means you're going to ask yourself, are you having any assumptions and biases with regard to the topic which you're going to read? And you have to remove those thoughts, assumptions, and biases. That is, you have to identify and suspend your assumptions and biases. That is known as bracketing. Because ultimately, you want to get into the mind of the informant and understand what are the perceptions and views of the informant. So somebody is telling you something about the seminars, and you have your own thoughts about the seminars, and you begin reading the transcript with your thoughts, then you will never be able to understand what the respondent has been saying in an unbiased manner. So to do bracketing, you have to always, at the beginning of reading, you have to ask yourself, are you having any biases or assumptions already there? And if you feel that yes, they are there, you should be able to set them aside. So this is a very tricky thing, and it can only be done with practice. So being aware about your thoughts, asking yourself, are you making any assumptions before you start reading? And then keeping aside all those assumptions is something which you should learn before you start reading the transcript. The second thing for close reading is mindfulness. Mindfulness means being present in the moment, being aware of the moment. That is, you have to clear away thoughts, okay, but also you should ensure that there are no distractions when you are reading. So you should sit in a quiet room. There should be no background music. Many times you will have your television set on or you will have some background music and you feel you will work effectively, but that still can be a distraction. You should switch off all access to social media, phone, and there should be no side conversations. So this is to enhance your concentration and to ensure that you are focusing on your transcript. Again, no multitasking. You can't do anything else when you are reading your transcript. That is known as mindfulness. So these two things are something which are a must when you are doing your coding. That is bracketing to remove your biases and your assumptions, and mindfulness, that is being present in the moment without any distractions. Then, of course, the traditional way of doing your analysis is to have a hard copy of the transcript, take a paper, pencil, because that helps you to focus on each and every word and each and every sentence. And again, many times we just take the transcript and start coding. That is not a very good idea. You have to read your text several times before you actually write down your codes. So one reading may not suffice. You have to read it a couple of times to understand and to make sense out of it. You have to skim through your transcript line by line and then take up the exercise of coding. So any questions till now? Or are you understanding? Are
Yes, ma'am.
we
Yes, ma'am.
okay? Okay. So the next, I think I've paused my screen. I don't know how I've paused it. So are you able to see this next screen?
No,
No,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Oh, yeah, just a minute. I think I have done something wrong here. How I have paused this. I'll just reshare. Are you able to see now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So I told you that the entire transcript has to be cut down into pieces, and then you have to give a code to each sentence or a group of sentences. So what is this code? This code is nothing but it is a word or a short phrase which will represent that entire sentence or paragraph. Now, this is a researcher generated construct. You, as a researcher, it is your decision that this particular word will represent that entire sentence. And that word should represent the meaning of the original data. So that is a code in qualitative research. And for that, you require careful reading, deep reflection of what exactly is that sentence trying to say, make an interpretation of the sentence, and then come up with an effective code. This itself is a skill, and as you will understand, you will require good vocabulary to code the data. Now, coding is heuristic, means it is a method of discovery. It is a step in the analysis which helps you to discover patterns, synthesize your data, and come up with themes and theory. And hence, it is known as heuristic. It is a method of analysis. Now, this particular sentence about coding is what I like. It says that what is coding? It is an intense conversation of the researcher with your data. So you're trying to converse with your data, understand the implications on the future methods in the analysis, that is your categorization, clubbing everything together, synthesizing. It also aids in descriptive reporting and theory building. So you are conversing with your data when you are coding. You're trying to understand your data and give a word or a phrase to different sections in your transcript when you are coding. Now, this is again a very important figure which actually tells you what happens when you're coding. So, you have your data. When you read your data, you give codes to different sections of your data. And then you go and have a look at all the codes, and you find out whether these codes are related to each other in any way. Are they similar, dissimilar in any way? And whether they can be clubbed together in what are known as categories. So you can have codes which you can bring together. So you have, say, 30 codes. You may say, okay, I'll have 10, I can club them into 10 categories. And then you look at all those 10 categories and you may feel that, okay, there can be two or three more categories in which I can club these 10 codes. So when you are coding, there is something known as levels or phases of coding. So what today we are going to see is just one type of level one coding. That is, you have your raw data that is in the form of the transcript, and the first time you put codes in your transcript, that is known as level one coding. Then when you look at all those codes and you try to club them together, work with those codes, club them together, that is known as level 2 coding. And then depending upon what kind of transcripts you have, how complex your data is, you can have level 3, level 4 codes, which will help you to move from your data through codes to categories, themes, and then ultimately, if required, say in the grounded theory, to generate your own theory. Are you understanding this? This is very, very important.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what we are doing is trying and understanding that when you are analyzing your qualitative transcripts, you begin with level 1 coding, and then if necessary you move upwards to level 2 3 coding, which help you to come up with categories, themes, and theory. So this is something which you need to understand, and we are going to look at level 1 coding. And again, in level 1 coding there can be different types of coding. We'll just understand some basic uh, methods or codes which are there. So this is the first cycle coding method which we are looking at. So there itself there can be what are known as elemental or basic codes, effective codes, literary or language related codes, exploratory, procedural, and grammatical codes. We'll just look at the elemental codes which are commonly used in qualitative research analysis. So these are in vivo codes, process codes, which together are initial codes for the grounded theory approach. And then there are descriptive codes, structural codes, and concept codes. So what are these in vivo codes? Now the in vivo codes means what? When you are reading the transcript, you use words which are there in the transcript as codes. You do not use any external codes. So the codes are drawn from the participant's own language. This helps you to preserve the emic language. Now, if you remember the difference between quantitative and qualitative research, emic and etic approach. If you remember that, etic means looking from outside, and emic means looking from inside of the study population, from their perspective. It is not the researcher's perspective, it is the respondent's perspective which you are trying to capture, and you are doing it by using their language. So you preserve their language and their meaning when you use their own words as a code. So these codes are not derived from the researcher. They are short verbatim words or phrases which capture the participants' experiences and perceived value. These codes, they reflect the participants' thoughts. And if you say that you're going to use grounded theory, you should use such in vivo codes. Usually for in-depth interviews, you may use these codes. And if you are participants are from a particular culture, for example, you are interviewing healthcare workers or doctors, then it is better to use in vivo codes because they have their own vocabulary which you want to be retained in your code. So if you have people from a particular culture and you suspect that they have a peculiar vocabulary, then that is also the place that you will use in vivo codes. In vivo means using the participant's own language as a code. So as an example, this particular transcript, we have already read the transcript earlier. So this is an example of using some sentences together and coding them. So what is the first code? It is each time everyone are coming different topics, and then things explored apart from what we learn here, and then different topics are mentioned like travel, medicine, female literacy, female related things. So all this I am saying as different topics, right? And I am, whenever the codes are put in apostrophe, it is a signal that these are in vivo codes. So I have used a word which has been told by the respondent as a code. The next sentence is, there are many things each university seminar makes me to think out of the box. So the second code is think out of the box. Then there is a sentence, there are many opportunities. Each seminar gave me this. So again, many opportunities is the third in vivo code. So for each code, I have used the words which have been mentioned by the participant. Are you with me for in vivo codes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm not thinking much. I'm not saying, okay, what is the word which I should use for all of this, what has been said. I pick up words which correctly reflect the sentences which I think are relevant for my research question. Now, this is an example of line by line coding. That is, I take up each and every line in the paragraph in the transcript and I code each and every line. This is known as line by line coding. So sometimes when you read a paper, it is written that we did line by line coding. This is what they did. And again, here we have used in vivo codes. So if they say each seminar gave me at least 10 take home points, then I say 10 take home points. There are many opportunities, many opportunities. Then we are not confined to only that PSM is not only this, PSM is not only this. So I have taken words for each and every sentence and I've shortened that sentence and I've used it as a code. And you can see that this is a very intensive exercise. These are level 1 codes. And as I told you, for the level 2 codes, now I have to focus on all these level 1 codes and see whether I can club them together into something which is similar and give a name to all those sentences as a code. So this is another technique, line by line coding. The second type of coding is process coding. Now, process coding is where you use gerunds. That is, you use verbs. You say anything ing. I'll give you an example what gerunds are. So what gerunds do is they capture action in data. So instead of using nouns, which is usually used in descriptive coding, you turn everything into action. So all topics are converted into action when you use verbs. Now these gerunds, you can convert everything what the respondent is saying into such kind of codes because they represent important aspects of their everyday lives, their concerns, their conditions, which are captured when you use gerunds. Also, if you feel that your topic is about activities or about sequence of events, if you can think of your topic as some sequence of events, some rituals, some habits, those are also the places where you will use process coding. So this type of coding also helps you to understand the participants' perspectives as well as actions. So like your in vivo coding, when you're using grounded theory, it is also advisable to use process coding. And then as I told you, if you think that your topic is something which can be explained as steps or events which are occurring or their rituals or their habits, then that is also the place where you would use to prefer gerunds. So again, the same transcript, I am using process coding. So for the first few sentences, I am saying being exposed to diverse topics. For the next few sentences, I am saying thinking out of the box. And for the last part, I am saying recognizing new opportunities. So this is gerund means ing. I am using being, thinking, recognizing. I am converting everything into verbs and into actionable wordings. That is known as process coding. Are you with me for process coding?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So, first part, yes, any questions? So first what we saw was in vivo coding where you are using words from the text. The second is process coding where you are trying to use actionable words. Again, for your line by line coding, these are different gerunds which can be used for coding. So there are many opportunities, recognizing better opportunities. PSM is not only this, it is apart from that, reframing the scope of PSM. So here again, now your vocabulary comes into picture. What words you will use. So you have to think here and choose appropriate words. I write what and all I learned from that, reflecting through writing. I have to learn, developing intrinsic motivation to learn. So you can see that here we are not sticking exactly to what the respondent has said. We as researchers are trying to attach some meaning and make sense out of the responses. This is how process coding is different from in vivo coding. So they are saying that everyone are coming with different topics. So there we said different topics. Here we are seeing being exposed to diverse topics. So we are attaching a meaning and using our words to make some sense out of each and every sentence. This is process coding. The third type is descriptive coding. Now, these are nouns. This is the easiest way to do coding, but it is advisable that we should avoid descriptive coding and preferably do in vivo and process coding. So, all you do in descriptive coding is you assign labels, basic labels in the form of nouns to data, and your objective when you do descriptive coding is just to come up with a list of topics which are being generated in your transcript. You don't derive further meaning from the data or think deeply when you do descriptive coding. And that is why it is said that you desist from doing descriptive coding and preferably do the other two types of coding which we discussed earlier. So if you are a beginner in qualitative analysis, you can begin with descriptive coding, but you should with time shift to other types of coding. So if you just want to identify the topics and attach some label to the topics, then you do your descriptive coding. And these are all nouns. So again, the descriptive codes for our piece were a diversity of topics, broadened perspectives, so that there can be an adjective attached to your noun, and perceived academic opportunities. So diversity, perspectives, and opportunities. These are nouns which have been identified, and these are just topics which are emerging from your transcript. So we have seen three types of codes which are commonly used in the analysis. This is again line by line coding using descriptive codes. Now these are sentences which are from a transcript where the respondents have been asked about their experiences in lockdown during COVID-19. Now, can you tell me what kind of codes these are? The first three codes.
Processed coding, ma'am.
Yes. Why do you say so?
Because the
Gerunds.
gerunds have been used.
Use of gerunds.
Very
ing.
good. And how do you identify that these are gerunds?
ing is there.
Experiencing.
Yes, absolutely right. Then, what about the next three?
In vivo codes. In vivo codes.
How do you identify that?
It is in the
It's in the
quotation.
first
Yes,
patient
yes. So
own
it is in
language
the
of the
yes, and
participant.
when you read, you get a sense that okay, this is actually what the respondent might have said. And what about the last three?
Descriptive, ma'am.
Descriptive.
Yes. So these are descriptive because if you see, they are all nouns, right? And there might be topics which are emerging, but that is a very far away thought. It's just that they are nouns which gives a hint that this could be descriptive. Now, just quickly, we'll go through two more types of coding. One is structural coding. Now, what is structural coding? That is, you know that there is you have already identified, there are many research questions and topics have already been identified. And you are then trying to find out the codes within that topic. So you have a specific topic or a research question and you are interviewing multiple participants with these different topics. So for each topic, you try to find codes within that topic. So I'll just give you an example for structural coding. Supposing I am trying to understand in the interviews for university seminars, what are the benefits of attending the university seminar? So that topic is already in my mind, benefits, right? So benefits will be a code which is already there in my mind, and I'm going to try and find out in my entire interview which are the paragraphs where benefits are mentioned. Might be I have a direct question where I'm asking the respondent, okay, tell me what are the advantages, benefits of attending. So the entire response I am going to code as benefits. And then within that code, I am then going to get in and find out sub codes. Okay, now let me see what are the different benefits. And I'll use different coding methods. It could be descriptive, gerunds, or in vivo to find out different benefits. So you're understanding this structural coding.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Yes,
We have
ma'am.
broad code based on your research question or your topic of interest. So you are interested three. So supposing in my uh, research topic, I'm interested in understanding not only the perceptions, suggestions, but also what are the advantages, benefits, and what are the negative points about these seminars. Then I may have two questions directly asking them and then getting the answers. So the entire response I'm going to code as benefits or advantages, disadvantages, and then within that I am going to do subcoding using other coding methods. That is known as structural coding. So again here I am saying that the question I asked was about benefits. So I know that this entire paragraph is coded as benefit, and within that I am then using codes. So now I know that benefits are improving knowledge, improving thought process, getting awareness about different opportunities, and networking. So this is structural coding. So you put everything related to a topic in one place and then you do subcoding within that particular code. That is known as structural coding. And then there are some other elemental codes, concept coding. Now this can only be done with experience. That is, concept coding means what? You extract and label big picture ideas suggested by the data. Means I am skipping the first level of code. It is as if I am skipping the first level codes, and I have the ability, because I have so much experience. Some researcher may think, okay, I can directly go to concept coding. I can extract concepts from the transcript. So they come up with codes which are at a more abstract level in the first level of coding itself. That is known as concept coding. And initial coding, I told you, it could be in vivo or process coding, which is using grounded theory as a first level of coding, where you actually want to stick to the what the respondent is saying as much as possible. So we are not going to go into great depths about concept coding because it only will come with experience. So coding is one method of doing the disassembling part. Now till here, do you have any questions for coding? Because see, I am not going into other levels of coding or other types of coding. The commonest types of coding, and just giving a sense that try different methods of coding. You cannot say that I have used only one method of coding throughout my analysis. You can use different types of coding, whatever is suitable. So you can use a combination of different types of coding too. Any questions still here?
Can we use multiple quotes from a single paragraph or single line?
Yes,
Like
so there is a
caskets,
lot of
like
controversy about it, but you can use. So you can have, might be a major chunk is telling something, and within that, you feel that there are some other sub codes which are there, which are altogether different. There is a technique of doing that too, and some say it's acceptable. There is a controversy out of that, but if you are convinced, then you can go ahead and do such kind of coding too.
okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Any other question? So I'm just trying to see. Okay. So I told you that when you're doing your coding, it is not just a mechanical process. Coding is not a mechanical process, of course, because you have to read, you have to make sense, you have to decide which are the words which will be the most appropriate to represent what the respondent has said in these sentences. But along with it, if you want to move ahead in your analysis, there is something known as memoing. So what is this memoing? Does anyone know what is memoing in qualitative research, of course? So along with coding, you have to also write analytic memos. What is this? Now, when you're doing coding, there could be so many thoughts which come in your mind, right? And You should also learn to ask questions when you're coding, because you don't want to stop at level 1 coding. You want to move ahead with level 2 coding and then come up with categories and themes. So if you want to do effective analysis, you should learn to reflect on what is happening when you are coding and ask questions to the entire process of coding. And you should have the habit of writing things down. So whatever is happening during coding, at the end of each coding process, you should be able to write, reflect, and write your thought process. That is known as an analytic memo. So these are brief written reflections which are written systematically by the researcher, and they help you to understand your thinking and your interpretations during the analysis. Because everything you have done, in the end, if somebody asks you, okay, what was your thought process, that you, because you see it's all very, very subjective. So to really understand how you went through the entire process, you need to document it. So these analytical memos are acting as a bridge between your coding, then your theme identification, and ultimately your theory building. So what were your thoughts when you came up with these themes, and how did you build your theory? These analytic memos are a proof that this is how you did it. And as I told you, you have to ask a series of questions if you want to write your analytic memo. So you should have keep asking yourself, okay, what do the data mean? How do these data relate to my research question? So questions like, what is happening in the data? Okay, these codes are there. Do I see a pattern? What is the meaning of all this when I look at the entire picture together? Why is this important with regards to my research question and my objectives? Then how does this relate to other codes? Not only in this transcript, but codes which are there in other transcripts. So are there similarities? Are there differences? And all of this, whatever codes are there, whatever categories are there, is there any theory which is emerging? Are there new concepts which are coming up? So when you ask these questions, that is actually the time when analysis is happening. Coding is only one thing, but when you are coding, keep on asking yourself these questions. But all this should not remain in your head, it should all be written down somewhere, and that becomes your analytic memo. So are you understanding this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is a very difficult part. Reading, I told you, okay, reading skill should be strengthened. But reflection, you must have seen that in the undergraduate CBME, we talk of reflection. So this is also a time of reflection in qualitative research. That is, when you are coding, asking yourself a series of questions. So you are writing the codes, and at the same time you feel, oh, these codes can be brought together into a category. You immediately have to write it down. That this date, when I was going through this transcript, these many codes emerged, and I felt that these codes could be put together into this category. And then proceed with further coding and keep on writing your memo as you move ahead. So asking questions, coming up with answers, and documenting them is what analytic memo is all about. And as the name suggests, this is analytic memo, means there will be other types of memos which we will try and see in the future. But you have to understand that when you are disassembling your data, of course, a critical step is coding, but parallel to that, what is equally important is memoing, writing your analytic memo. So might be in our different types of coding methods which we have used, if you could have asked the questions, okay, what is it that is emerging from these codes? Might be we would have thought, see, I feel that there is an active learning experience which the respondent is talking about. They are talking about curricular enrichment, interdisciplinary exposure, reflective learning. And when I'm doing all this, in the end, I may think, okay, if I'm talking about benefits of seminar attendance, I feel that this respondent is talking about cognitive domain, educational domain. They're talking about intrinsic motivation, which is affective domain. They're talking about professional identity development, professional domain. And then a thought may come in my mind, but nowhere psychomotor domain is mentioned. So is it that there is no skill development happening in the university seminar? So if these thoughts are emerging in my mind, I have to jot it down as an analytic memo. Are you with me here?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is going to help you to actually move ahead in your analysis. Your from coding to level 2, level 3, every time you write an analytic memo, there will be clarity and you will know what is happening in your analysis. To learn not only to take interviews, to be good in active listening, reading, but also writing whatever your thoughts are, jotting them down. That is another skill you need to develop. And you can see somebody had asked me, what about AI? Can we use AI for analysis? Of course, there are good tools which are coming up. And I have also tried doing it, but I always feel that you cannot rely on AI totally, as of now at least, right? Because you can see there is so much going on when you're doing the analysis. So you cannot blindly rely on any tool. You have to be well versed with your transcript and what actually you feel is the right way of moving ahead with analysis, and might be AI can be used for some help to improve on your vocabulary, but the core analysis and the thought process you should be very clear about when you're doing your qualitative analysis. Now, in coding, coming back to coding, see, the purpose of coding is to organize your data, retrieve important sections of the transcript, to assemble them properly, to reduce. So from the uh, so many sentences, you come down to codes which may be large in number, to categories, to themes. So you are reducing your data and coming up with something which is more substantial. And then, of course, the ultimate objective is to find pattern and synthesize your data and come up with some themes or theory. Now, what are the required skills if you want to do such kind of analysis? Of course, classifying properly. You should be able to identify what is relevant and prioritize it, because might be you may not be able to include everything in your analysis. Integrating things, synthesizing things, then abstract thinking is something important when you go to higher levels of coding, building concepts and theory. These are other skills which are required in qualitative data analysis. And then what are the personal attributes? You have to be organized, then perseverance, then there is a lot of ambiguity. How to deal with that ambiguity is something you should learn. You should be flexible, because I told you you move to and fro. So you cannot say, okay, this is the code, now I can't change it. You can change your codes, you can move to and fro, and you should allow yourself some space to give some flexibility. You, of course, have to be creative and you should have good vocabulary. And then, of course, because it's all very subjective, it's in your hands that you are rigorously ethical and do not, commit any undue mistakes, which can be easily avoided when you are dealing with such kind of data. The next point is actually when to code. Now, see, if you say that my entire research is based on a previously existing theory or a particular conceptual model, then you will have your codes before your data collection. So that is also a possibility. Say I am doing a study on behavior change communication, and I say that this study is based on the health belief model. Then I already will have some codes with me before I start collecting the data, a priori codes. Sometimes I say I don't know, I don't have any theory. I want to come up with a theory. So that is known as a grounded theory approach. So all my codes are going to be based in the data which I collect. That is a second possibility. The third possibility is that, see, I am going to begin with this particular model or conceptual framework, but I am open to new codes which may be coming up in my transcripts. So that is a mixed way of going ahead. Some are priori codes, but I am going to also generate new codes on my way in my analysis. So when to code, that also you should be very clear. How much to code, whether it's word to word, which I don't know how it makes sense, but line by line, or paragraph by paragraph, how much are you coding? And then it's not just coding, but writing your memos. And then, of course, coding comes later on. So the quality of your interviews, your recording, your transcripts, and your reading ability all is going to really tell you how good your coding is going to be. So again, Joyce, you need to tell me if anybody, I don't think so anybody is there from the lab.
Ma'am, from FMT, we have one of them.
Who is there? Can you please tell me who is there from FMT?
His name, like,
Okay.
the
Anyways, I'll just show these because might be they may say the recording. So these are few topics in microbiology if they want to take up qualitative research. Then we have a few topics in pathology which can be taken up as qualitative research where you want to really understand what are their experiences, perceptions. Those are the places where you will qualitative research. And then if there is anyone in qualitative research, please do tell me. Sorry, in from forensic medicine. So these are a few topics which can be even taken up in forensic. So in any department, there are so many PG students, and we are always looking out for topics. But you can always think innovatively and come up with topics in your department for qualitative research. Is there any question in chat, Joyce?
No, ma'am, as such, no question. They're asking for recorded sessions.
Okay, that of course we will do that later on. Now, another way, because even if now you are struggling to understand what is this coding all about, I'm going to just tell you what is this process using another metaphor of this. What is this? You are seeing what are these called?
Rubik's Cube. Rubik's Cube.
Yes. So this is Rubik's Cube. So it is like this is a Rubik's Cube. For example, you have taken 6 in-depth interviews, right? So these 6 surfaces, they are all white in color and you don't know how to make sense out of it. So you disassemble means each piece you are trying to understand and you give them some colors. And then when you reassemble, you try to put the similar kind of colors in together, that is reassembling. So you have to disassemble your data and try and make sense of each piece. And then similar pieces, you bring them together, which are your categories and your themes. That is also one way of thinking about data analysis in qualitative research, that is disassembling and reassembling to make sense out of your data. So remember that like in Rubik's Cube, what is going to be important for your qualitative data analysis is training, getting trained and then practicing. The more you practice, you will see that the way you interact with your data and make sense of your data is going to be very, very different. So you try and conduct studies using the qualitative research methodology. And the more and more you analyze your data, you code your data and come up with themes, you will know that you are improving in this technique. So training and practice are two important things if you want to enjoy the process of qualitative data analysis, because there are eureka moments when you do qualitative data analysis, because you really come up with some categories and themes from when you club together things and then you come up with relevant codes. It's really a satisfying experience. I am sure some of you all must have already experienced it. So we are going to go, because I said practice. So I hope you are ready, because we'll end quickly now. This is the last patch in this session. So this is again a response, because it's very interesting, because these responses probably are given by some of the participants who are there attending this session. But now this is another transcript which is there. So can you just try and give codes? I'll give you 2 minutes. You can quickly read through, because I will not read. Reading is a skill. I'll keep quiet. You read through, give codes, and I would love to listen to your codes for this transcript. So let's try it up. So are we ready? Anyone would like to share their codes? You can raise your hands. I hope at least a couple of the participants will share their codes.
Ma'am, making everyone participate.
Okay, good.
Ma'am, in the
See,
first paragraph, we can tell as interactive sessions.
ma'am,
So you also
some
have to tell me
topics
what
will be
type of
boring.
code you are using, what type of codes. Like the
Ma'am,
first one I saw was a gerund. The second one I think is a descriptive code, right?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
ma'am,
Yeah, you tell the code and the type of code.
like in Vivo, ma'am, some topics will be boring.
Okay, correct. Any other codes you're thinking about?
We can use structural codings like negative experiences in the second paragraph.
Correct.
Like uses like says like dragging and expecting breaks,
Hmm.
and we can say like mentally draining,
Yes.
loss of focus,
Yes.
and need
Losing
for
focus. Because
breaks.
if you're using gerunds, you will say losing focus.
Losing focus. Then requiring breaks.
Yes.
That
Yes.
all
So I
those
think
things.
you are getting there. You know now what to do, right? So
Yes.
um, the second paragraph is all negative. So you might say, okay, all of this I'm going to use a structural code. This is going to go into negative experience, and then subcodes within that.
Yes,
And you have
ma'am.
also given examples of in vivo codes, about descriptive codes. So
In
process,
vivo,
yes.
in vivo courses, starting from the first paragraph, we can say it like more interesting,
Hmm.
interactive sessions,
Hmm.
asking questions,
Correct.
takes our inhibition,
Hmm.
then
Correct.
mingling with people,
Correct.
all those things.
So at the same time, now what will be your analytic memos when you are coming up with these codes? Right now, immediately one is that when you read the second, you thought that all of this is negative. So this is going to I'm going to use a structural code and use a broad code of negative experiences. So that itself is an analytic memo. Any other thoughts which are coming to your mind when you are looking at the transcript and your codes?
Suggestions, possible suggestions that can be given.
Correct. Yes. So uh, some of them are also giving suggestions. So that is coming in your analytic memo. Any other, like you have to reflect when I am reading this, what am I feeling? What am I seeing? And then different codes are coming up. Are they related to each other? Am I seeing any pattern emerging? Is this helping me answer my research question in any way? So I'm getting some positives, I'm getting some negatives. So might be in my results, can I put this forth as positive, negative experiences? As a whatever is coming in your mind, no, you have to write it down as an analytic memo, right? You may use that or not, but you may change everything in the next analytic memo. But at that moment, whatever thought process is there, you should learn to write it down systematically. That is another thing you need to do in your analysis. Now we have different options. Now, of course, Dr. Joyce will share with you a feedback form. In that, you have to mention, because what we can do in the upcoming sessions is learn more about coding, learn more about memos. There is also a code book. Remember, it is not just coding, give codes and go on giving codes to more and more transcripts. You have to learn how to develop your code book. And then there was a question I think Dr. Aram had asked about sample size. So we also need to learn about the sampling techniques and sample size in qualitative research. So when you are giving your feedback, do tell me which of these you want in the next session and in the upcoming sessions along with the other parts of the feedback. So I think we are done with our session today. If you have any questions, you can ask. I'll just stop the recording.